Thank you to VinFast for sponsoring this video. The EV market right now in the US is crowded. You've got Tesla leading the charge, and you've got the established automakers coming out with really capable EV options. And then you still have startups coming onto the scene, new companies that are trying to sell their cars and sell a vision of what they think electric mobility should be and could be. You've got Lucid and Rivian, and now you've got VinFast. And they have a ton of money, and they are using that money to start an automotive branch, and they're calling it VinFast. And that started back in 2017, and now in 2023, they're actually delivering the first customer car. And I had a chance to take a look at it in San Diego. This is the VF8, and I've got a lot to say about it. Before I get to VF8 and everything to talk about with this car, and there is a lot, I do want to thank you. You, sir, madam, are incredible and good humans and supported me for a very, very long time, before the EV market was even a thing. So chance to say thank you. I want to give you guys a chance to win $500 just for being awesome. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me something that you dig about the VF8. Tell me a dad joke. Just leave your social handle in the comment. Open to anyone in the world. Run it for 10 days. All information you need there will be in the description. So full disclosure, VinFast offered to send me to San Diego to take a look at their brand new VF8 City Edition. Now this video is sponsored. VinFast had no editorial control over anything that was said here. If you just Google VF8, you will see a lot of opinions. I had a chance to drive this car for about two and a half hours. It is not perfect, but it does have a lot of potential. So everything here is based on my 2-3 hours I spent with it. Hey guys, so future John here. Actually today this video is going up. We're kind of seeing the power for all cars of OTA updates. There was a recall on all VF8s. The head unit could potentially go out, causing a safety risk. Software update will fix that. Back to the video. Tech is the first thing I check out with a car. I won't consider a car unless the tech is, at least to my mind, good. And there is a lot here. So you've got a very familiar looking large center screen, 15.6 inches. It seems heavily Tesla inspired here. Software is hard to do. It was my biggest issue that I had with Lucid when I drove it. I was not mad at this UI at all. Like any new car, there was a learning curve, but within 15 minutes, I figured out how to use it. It felt quick, zippy, and relatively intuitive. You've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. Wireless charging pad. You have 360 cameras here as well, which is nice. A ton of charging ports. Oddly, 2 USB-A's in front, no USB Type-C. There is a Type-C in the back that was 90 watts, which is obviously a ton of power. You have all your HVAC controls are on screen as far as temperature and that kind of stuff. Once you want to drive it, you got I thought it was a pretty cool looking gear selector. You also have a physical volume knob as well, which was pretty cool. But obviously this car's got to drive, right? Sitting still is not why people are going to look to buy or lease this car. The first leg of our drive was just some normal roads. I wanted to check out the customizable heads-up display. So it's color, you can pick what shows on it, and you can also arrange where it is. I drive with polarized sunglasses, and that has never worked with any heads-up display, so same here, I couldn't see it anyway. But had I taken off my polarized prescription glasses, I would have been only able to enjoy the heads-up display for about 10 or 15 minutes before we did have a warning that it was overheating and needed to be turned off. In all fairness, I had the brightness turned all the way up, so maybe that impacted the heat, but that was an issue that I had in the car. Now, this is where some of the reviews you may have read online come into play. The common theme in the other opinions that I've read and watched were really kind of twofold were the big ones. They talked a lot about excessive body roll, and they talked about feeling disconnected from the road. Now, I am not an automotive journalist. I haven't been reviewing cars for 30 plus years. I'm a guy who's been driving electric cars for a decade and happens to just love cars. First, it felt plenty zippy. 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds and about 402 horsepower. You'd expect that from any electric car. That's like the basis for EVs. It should feel fast because of all of that instant torque. And this, it definitely did. And I wasn't going fast around corners. I did not feel the body roll. My experience was definitely not what others had felt. This was not a car I'm going to remember driving and tell my kids about. It's also what I'm not going to get out of and think that was atrocious. I thought it drove absolutely fine. And if I was looking to get a car in this price point and it drove like this, I would probably be pretty happy with it. But the flip side of that comes down to their ADAS system. It'll get to level 2 at shipping. It's got lane keep and it's got adaptive cruise control, which sounds fine. While I didn't experience any body roll, what I did experience was beeping at seemingly every second. That noise. Jeez. It's pretty aggressive. And while you're driving, you can take advantage, so it takes advantage of level 2. Even just to get a take like this took multiple times because there was so much beeping. It said I was in the left lane, said I was hitting the right lane marker, it was trying to center me back in the middle. It was the most sensitive system I have ever tested. Now listen, I'm not the best driver in the world, but I definitely don't need that much beeping happening every single turn that I go on. Now, I turned all those things off and it was fine for a while, but when you turn the car back on, all those things came back on again and all of the beeping came on again. I've never had that much beeping in a car. It was like I was at a supermarket where the cashiers were competing for who could scan the most products at once. It was a lot. Now, that does to me seem like software that can be fixed and addressed over their updates. But at launch, if I bought this car, that would be an incredibly tough pill to swallow until an OTA update comes that addresses that. If there's one thing that's going to give people pause about the VF8, especially this one that we're driving, the City Edition, it's going to be range. So from a just under 90 kilowatt hour pack, depending on the drive mode you're in, you can estimate to about 200 miles. Now, if the city part of that car, I figure that's totally fine. But 200 miles does make things like road tripping potentially be an issue. Now, they've tried to combat that. You've got a max charge rate of 260 kilowatts, which is nice. They should be able to give you a consistent charge rate of over 150 kilowatts, which is relatively fast as well. Different versions of the car will be coming out that'll have more range. The city version's coming first and the standard range is coming a bit later. That'll offer more range. That was my 2-hour-ish driving experience. It might have been different. Maybe I would have heard less beeps and boops if I was just driving on a freeway. But they took us on a bunch of back roads, which I don't think represented the car as well as it perhaps could have. Again, I did not have the experience that others had or some people had with driving this car. It drove like an absolutely fine car, one that I would not be mad at just from a driving perspective. Now, perhaps if I drove it for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, that opinion would change one way or another. But in that 2-3 hours, I thought the drive was fine. But the drive, the interior stuff is sort of just one part. The exterior is another totally different equation with this car. I think the design of any car is subjective. I'd argue it's probably one of the most important factors about buying a car is how do things look. So VinFast, being sort of a new automotive company, they went straight to the top for design. They hired Pininfarina to design the car, which has a very long history of designing beautiful race cars for Ferrari. They designed the Testarossa. And you can see some of the sports car like heritage here, which is kind of weird to say, heritage, from a company that's been around for only a few years, but you can see it. And like, to me, the design looks good. This is kind of strange though. It looks vastly different in person than it does in pictures. I think this area in particular looks different in person than in pictures. In pictures, it kind of has maybe a bit of almost a plasticky look. It does not look like that in person at all. I really like the look of the car. I could probably do without the front license plate bracket here, but you know, regulations. But to me, it looks nice. It looks sporty, even down to sort of where the air intakes are. Kind of, you can see it's got some sports car heritage here. It was designed by people that really know sports cars. From a size standpoint, it's a pretty big mid-size SUV. It's on the larger side of the category. Your charge port lives in the front left. It's really kind of weird on EVs. On gas cars, you either have your, it's on the back left or the right. On EVs, it could be anywhere. At least this is like a pretty easy spot to have in the front left. But it's a really nice looking, clean car. It looks really good from the back. And when it lights up, especially when it's parked, you can see the V kind of comes down into the logo. At least to me, the design starts from the back. So you've got the VinFast logo and the lights come out from it. And then all the body lines kind of extend from there. But it's nice. It's a larger size car. To me, it's bigger than a Model Y and bigger than the Mach-E. That gives you some kind of frame of reference for size. So VinFast spun off from Vingroup. And Vingroup, it's the largest conglomerate of companies in Vietnam. It is ginormous. In 2017 was when VinFast was spun off. They established a manufacturing complex to sort of start building cars. In a crazy fast turnaround, 1 year later in 2018, they revealed some internal combustion cars. In 2021, they announced their first 3 EVs. So the E34, VF8, and VF9. In 2022, they gave us a full lineup of cars actually at CES. They've opened a bunch of service centers here in the US. And in 2023, the first VinFast EVs went to customers in North America. So from 2017, 2023, in 6 years, they went from we're a company to now here's some keys to actually drive our cars. The different versions here of the VF8, and pricing kind of ranges from $49,000 to $56,000 depending on range and performance. So about $7,000 spread. In that spread, there is a lot of very established, really viable options for EVs. You've got the Mustang Mach-E, you've got the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, of course you've got the Model Y as well, and a few others in there. So the VF8 is coming in at a price point where there is a lot of competitors. In order to be successful, they're gonna have to find ways to stand out. So I think rightfully so, there's some nerves and trepidation about VinFast. This is a company though that has a lot of money and is committed to being here for a long time. And they are giving early adopters sort of the confidence they are going to stand behind their cars. They're offering a 10-year, 125,000 mile warranty on the car, and then a 10-year unlimited mile warranty on the battery. And then for 10 years after you buy the car, they will come to you for roadside assistance 24/7. And sort of throughout the whole process of checking out the VinFast, I'm reminded of sort of the real big switch that happened with Hyundai Kia about 10 years ago. Where they went from a car company that sold very inexpensive cars that were not that reliable to now one of the fastest growing automotive brands that offers luxury cars with incredible reliability and great technology. That process started with that 10-year warranty, with them standing behind their cars to give customers sort of a sense of confidence that this is a purchase that could go with them for a very long time. And there's a lot of echoes of that with what VinFast is doing here. I cannot see the future. I don't have a crystal ball. The early reviews here have not blown anyone out of the water, but I do think there is the potential for a really good car and a really good series of cars coming from VinFast. The VF8 is not the first car. The VF9 is coming, which will be a third row, and several others will come to the US market over the next few years. There's a lot of potential here with these cars. Whether or not you want to take a wait and see approach or jump in or not, it's going to be up to you what you do with your purchasing dollars. I do think though, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about what VinFast is doing. And as somebody who has been a very early adopter of a lot of EVs, I have tolerance for things like that. You may not. But at the very least, VinFast is a company you should keep an eye on if you're looking to get a new car or a new EV over the next few years.